The phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while Simone Carter stirred her mother's gumbo recipe, the one she'd been perfecting for 8 years of marriage. The steam rose up, carrying memories of Sunday dinners and promises made over candlelight. Her fingers were still damp when she reached for the phone, leaving tiny water droplets on the screen as she read the message from Derek. "Don't call or come over. We're done." 6 words. 8 years reduced to 6 cold words sent through a screen at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday night. Simone's hand trembled. She read it again. Then again. The wooden spoon slipped from her other hand and clattered against the pot, splashing roux across the stovetop. She didn't move to clean it. Her legs felt disconnected from her body as she sank onto the kitchen floor, the phone still glowing in her palm. "Got it," she typed back. 2 words. Her fingers moved on autopilot while her brain struggled to process what was happening. The delivered checkmark appeared instantly. Then the read receipt. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Nothing came through. Simone waited, sitting on the cold tile floor of the home they'd bought together 3 years ago, the home where they'd planned to raise children, grow old, build a life that meant something. The gumbo started to burn. The smell brought her back to her body, and she stood on shaking legs to turn off the stove. The pot was ruined. The meal was ruined. Everything was ruined, and she didn't even know why. Her phone buzzed again. For a moment, hope flared in her chest. Maybe he'd made a mistake, maybe there was an explanation. But it was just a notification from the bank app. She opened it automatically, her administrator's brain still functioning even while her heart was shattering. A transaction from 3 hours ago, $4,200 withdrawal from their joint savings. The account they'd been building for the down payment on a bigger house. Then another notification loaded. $1,800 charged to their joint credit card at a jewelry store she didn't recognize. Simone's throat tightened. She opened their shared banking app with trembling fingers. More transactions appeared as she scrolled. Dinners at expensive restaurants on nights when Derek said he was working late. Hotel charges in their own city. Flowers purchased from a florist downtown, none of which had ever arrived at their home. The evidence scrolled past like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. 3 months of lies, stacked up in neat rows of debits and charges. 3 months of "baby, I'll be home late," and "the project deadline got moved up, and you know how demanding my boss is." She called him anyway. The phone rang once before going to voicemail. He'd blocked her number. Simone sat back down on the floor, her back against the kitchen cabinets. The overhead light buzzed softly. The clock on the microwave blinked 10:03 p.m. Outside, she could hear Mrs. Patterson watering her garden, the spray of the hose hitting the concrete in steady rhythm. Normal sounds. Normal life continuing while hers fell apart. She thought about calling her mother, but what would she say? "Mama, Derek left me via text message and I don't know why?" The words felt too humiliating to speak out loud. Her mother had warned her about moving too fast, about getting married after only knowing him for 18 months. But Derek had been so sure, so confident, so ready to build a life together. He'd said all the right things about partnership and forever. Her phone buzzed with another bank notification. This time it was their joint checking account, the one they used for bills and groceries. Another withdrawal, $2,500. From an ATM across town near his office. Simone's sadness began shifting into something sharper. He wasn't just leaving. He was stealing from her on his way out. She stood up, her decision made in an instant. If Derek wanted to communicate through screens and transactions, she could do that too. She opened her laptop and logged into their accounts. Within 15 minutes, she transferred half of everything that remained into her personal account, the one she'd kept from before the marriage, the one Derek had suggested she close because married people should share everything. Thank God she kept it open. The transfers went through smoothly. $6,800 from savings. $3,200 from checking. Half of the money market account they'd opened last year. Her hands didn't shake anymore. Her tears had dried. Something cold and clear had settled over her, a kind of calm she'd never felt before. She wasn't going to beg. She wasn't going to chase him down or show up at his office demanding answers. She'd given him 8 years of loyalty, trust, and love. If he wanted to throw that away with a text message, then she would let him go. But she wouldn't let him destroy her in the process. Simone closed the laptop and walked to their bedroom. Her hands moved with purpose now as she pulled out her suitcase from the closet. She packed methodically clothes, toiletries, her grandmother's jewelry box, the photo albums from before Derek, her important documents. Everything that was hers and hers alone. By midnight her car was loaded. She took one last look at the house that had been supposed to be their forever home. The paint color they'd argued about for weeks before choosing the perfect warm beige. The garden she'd planted in the backyard. The porch swing where they'd spent summer evenings talking about their future. All of it felt like it belonged to a different person now. A person who'd believed in happy endings and kept promises. Simone locked the door behind her and drove to her mother's house across town. Nadine would still be awake. She always stayed up late watching her crime shows. The porch light would be on. There would be questions, but there would also be arms to hold her when the shock wore off and the real pain began. As she pulled out of the driveway, Simone glanced at her phone one more time. No new messages. No explanations. Just silence and the ghost of a marriage that had ended with 6 cold words. She drove through the quiet streets of their neighborhood, past the park where they used to walk on Sunday mornings, past the coffee shop where Derek had first told her he loved her. The city lights blurred through her windshield, and she realized she was crying again, not the desperate, confused tears from earlier, but something deeper. Grief for the life she'd thought she was building. Anger at the man who'd stolen her faith and promises. But underneath all of it, buried deep but beginning to surface, was something unexpected: relief. Because if Derek could do this, could end everything with a text message and drain their accounts without a word, then maybe she'd been living with a stranger all along. And maybe, just maybe, she was better off finding out now than wasting any more years on a man who'd never really seen her at all. Nadine Brooks opened the door before Simone could knock. She stood there in her purple robe, her silver-streaked braids wrapped in a silk scarf, her face shifting from surprise to understanding in seconds. Mothers always knew. "Baby," she said softly, and that single word broke something loose in Simone's chest. She fell into her mother's arms right there on the porch, her suitcase forgotten by her feet. Nadine held her tight, one hand stroking her back in the same rhythm she'd used when Simone was 5 years old and had fallen off her bike. The same rhythm that had comforted her through her father's death, through college rejections, through every hurt that had ever needed healing. "Come on inside," Nadine murmured. "Let's get you settled." The house smelled like lemon furniture polish and the lavender sachets Nadine kept in every room. Simone's childhood home, updated over the years but still holding the same warmth, the same sense of safety. The TV was on in the living room, a crime show frozen mid-scene where Nadine had paused it. Simone sank onto the familiar couch while her mother brought in her suitcase and closed the door. Then Nadine disappeared into the kitchen, and Simone heard the sounds of a kettle being filled, the click of the stove igniting, the cabinet opening where the tea was kept. Something's never changed. Nadine Brooks fixed everything with tea first, then talked. When her mother returned with 2 steaming mugs, Simone finally found her voice. "He sent a text. Don't call or come over. We're done." That's all he said. 8 years, and that's all he could give me. Nadine's jaw tightened, but she didn't interrupt. She sat down next to Simone and waited, the way she always did, giving her daughter space to let it all out. "Then I saw the bank accounts. He's been spending our money on someone else for months. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry that never came home. He cleaned out the savings tonight, took thousands of dollars. Just took it. Like I was nothing. Like we were nothing." "Did you transfer your half?" Nadine asked, her voice level. "Yes. I got what I could before he took it all." "Good girl." Nadine squeezed her hand. "I raised you right. Now tell me the rest." Simone told her everything: the burned gumbo, the blocked phone number, the feeling of sitting on the kitchen floor while her life fell apart. She talked until her tea went cold, until the words ran out and only exhaustion remained. "You can stay here as long as you need," Nadine said. "Your room's still set up. Nobody's touched it." "I don't understand how I missed it," Simone whispered. "How did I not see what he was doing?" "Because you loved him and you trusted him, and that's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. You weren't blind, baby. He was a liar. There's a difference." Nadine stood and pulled Simone to her feet. "Come on. You need sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest." Simone's childhood bedroom looked exactly as she'd left it when she moved out 8 years ago. Her old posters were gone, replaced with framed family photos, but the bed had the same quilt Nadine had made, the walls were still painted the soft green Simone had chosen at 16. The bookshelf still held her high school yearbooks and college textbooks. She changed into an old t-shirt from the drawer. Somehow her mother had kept clothes here for her all this time and crawled under the covers. The bed felt smaller than she remembered, but safer too. No one could hurt her here. Sleep came in fits and starts. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Derek's face, heard his voice saying the lies she'd believed. At 3 a.m. she gave up trying and went downstairs for water. The kitchen light was on. Nadine sat at the table with her Bible open, a notebook beside her covered in her neat handwriting. "Can't sleep either?" Simone asked. Been praying, Nadine said. And making a list. A list of what? Things you need to do. Nadine pushed the notebook across the table. First thing tomorrow you need a lawyer. I already texted Camille Green, she goes to our church, handles divorces. She's expecting your call. Simone looked at the list. Her mother had written everything down. Lawyer, bank accounts, credit cards, change passwords, cancel joint memberships, file for separation. It was overwhelming and comforting at the same time. How do you know all this? Simone asked. Your Aunt Rita went through this 15 years ago. I helped her then, learned what needed doing. Nadine's face softened. I never thought I'd need this knowledge for my own daughter. But here we are and we're going to get through it. I thought he loved me, Mama. Maybe he did in his own broken way. But love isn't just a feeling, baby. It's a choice you make every single day. He stopped choosing you a long time ago. Nadine reached across the table and took Simone's hands. But you're going to choose yourself now. Every single day from here on out, you're going to choose you. Simone nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks again. But these tears felt different, less about Derek and more about the woman she was going to have to become. Stronger. Harder. Less trusting. Don't do that, Nadine said, reading her face like she always could. Don't let him make you bitter. You're going to hurt for a while and that's okay. But you're also going to heal, and when you do, you'll still be the same loving, trusting person you've always been. Just wiser. Just stronger. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about how you feel, baby. It's about what you do when you feel broken. Nadine stood and pulled Simone into another hug. Now come on. Let's try to get some sleep. Tomorrow starts your new life, whether you're ready or not. They went upstairs together, and this time when Simone lay down, sleep came easier. She dreamed of storms and floods, of houses washing away and solid ground appearing beneath her feet. When she woke at dawn, sunlight was streaming through the window, and she could hear her mother downstairs making breakfast. The smell of bacon and eggs drifted up the stairs. Normal sounds. Normal life beginning again, different than before but still moving forward. Simone picked up her phone and looked at it for a long moment. Still no messages from Derek. Part of her had hoped he'd reach out, explain, apologize. But there was only silence. She opened her contacts and found Camille Green's number that her mother must have added during the night. She typed out a message. Hi, this is Simone Carter. My mother Nadine Brooks gave me your contact. I need a divorce attorney. Can we meet today? The response came within minutes. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I can see you at 2 p.m. My office is downtown. I'll text you the address. Bring any financial documents you have. Simone took a deep breath. This was real now. She was really doing this. She got dressed in clothes from her suitcase and went downstairs. Nadine was at the stove, plating food like she'd been expecting Simone to wake up at exactly this moment. Eat, Nadine commanded. You've got a lawyer to meet today. Can't do that on an empty stomach. Simone sat down at the kitchen table where she'd eaten thousands of meals growing up. The bacon was crispy the way she liked it. The eggs were scrambled with cheese and peppers. Her mother had even made her favorite cinnamon toast with butter. Thank you, Simone said, and she wasn't just talking about the food. Nadine smiled and sat down across from her with her own plate. That's what mothers are for, baby. Catching you when you fall and helping you find your feet again. They ate in comfortable silence, and for the first time since reading that text message, Simone felt something other than pain. She felt held, supported, loved in a way that didn't come with conditions or lies. Whatever happened next, she wouldn't face it alone. Camille Green's office was nothing like Simone expected. Instead of cold marble and intimidating leather furniture, it felt warm and lived in. The walls were covered with artwork from local black artists, and the waiting room had comfortable chairs with colorful throw pillows. A small fountain burbled in the corner, and soft jazz played through hidden speakers. A receptionist with kind eyes and locks pulled into a high bun smiled at Simone. Mrs. Carter? Miss Green is ready for you. Right through that door. Simone's hands were sweating as she walked into the office. Camille Green stood up from behind her desk, a tall woman with dark brown skin, natural hair cut into a short, stylish afro, and sharp eyes that somehow managed to be both assessing and compassionate at the same time. Simone, she said, extending her hand. I'm Camille. Please sit down. Can I get you water, tea, coffee? Water would be good. Simone's voice came out smaller than she intended. Camille poured water from a pitcher into a glass and handed it to her, then sat down in the chair next to Simone instead of behind her desk. I want you to know that everything you tell me stays between us. This is a safe space. I've helped dozens of women through this process, and I promise you're going to be okay. Simone nodded, not quite believing it yet but wanting to. Nadine told me a little bit about what happened. Why don't you start from the beginning and tell me everything? Don't leave anything out, even if you think it's not important. So Simone told her story again. The text message. The bank accounts. The evidence of infidelity. The blocked phone number. As she talked, Camille took notes on a legal pad, occasionally asking clarifying questions but mostly just listening. When Simone finished, Camille set down her pen and looked her straight in the eye. First thing I want to say is this. What he did was cowardly and cruel, but it was also stupid. He left you a paper trail a mile long. That's going to work in your favor. How? Georgia is an equitable distribution state. That means marital property gets divided fairly, which usually means equally. But judges have discretion to award more to one party if the other party engaged in misconduct that affected the finances. Camille flipped through her notes. The withdrawals he made after sending that text? That's called dissipation of marital assets. You can't just drain accounts and spend your money on an affair. You're going to get that back. I am? Yes. And depending on what else we find, you might get more than just half. Camille leaned forward. I'm going to need you to pull every financial statement you can access: bank accounts, credit cards, investment accounts, retirement funds, everything. Can you do that? Yes. Good. I'm also going to need you to document everything you know about his affair. Dates, times, any communication you've seen. Do you know who she is? No. I just know she exists. We'll find out. Does Derek own any major assets separately from you? He has a car in his name only. A Lexus he bought 2 years ago. And there's his 401k from work. Those are marital assets too, even if they're in his name alone. We'll be going after half of everything acquired during the marriage. Camille made more notes. Do you work? Yes. I'm an administrator at Mercy General Hospital. I make about $60,000 a year. What does Derek do? He's a project manager at a tech company. He makes around $90,000. Camille nodded. Given the income difference and the length of the marriage, we might be able to get you some temporary support while the divorce is pending. How do you feel about that? Simone hesitated. Part of her wanted to say she didn't need anything from Derek, that she could handle it on her own. But the practical part of her brain, the part that had managed hospital budgets for years, knew that pride didn't pay bills. I'll take whatever I'm entitled to, she said. Good answer. Now here's how this is going to work. I'm going to file for divorce and for temporary orders. That means we ask the court to divide financial responsibilities while the divorce is pending. We'll request that Derek pay half the mortgage if you're staying in the house, or we'll request exclusive use of the house if he's already moved out. We'll also ask the court to freeze all joint accounts so he can't take any more money. He's already blocked me from his location and his phone. I don't even know where he's living. We'll find out during the discovery process. He'll have to disclose everything: where he's living, who he's living with, how much money he's spending, and on what. Camille's expression hardened slightly. Men like Derek think they can just walk away and start over. They forget that marriage is a legal contract, and you don't get to break contracts without consequences. For the first time in 2 days, Simone felt a spark of something like hope. She wasn't powerless. There were rules, procedures, ways to fight back that didn't require begging or crying or demanding answers that would never come. How long does this take? Simone asked. Depends. If he contests it, could be 6 months to a year. If he agrees to everything, we can have it done in as little as 31 days after he's served. Camille paused. I'll be honest with you though. Most men who leave like this don't make it easy. They feel guilty, so they get defensive. They fight for things they don't even want just to avoid admitting they were wrong. What do I do in the meantime? You live your life. You go to work. You see your friends. You take care of yourself. You don't contact him unless it's through me. And you definitely don't agree to anything without running it past me first. Camille smiled. I know this feels overwhelming right now, but I promise you we're going to get through this together. They spent another hour going over details: retainer fees, court dates, what to expect during the process. By the time Simone left the office, she had a thick folder of paperwork and a checklist of things to do. But she also had something she hadn't had when she walked in: a sense of direction. She called Nadine from the car. It's done. I hired her. She's filing the papers tomorrow. How do you feel? Simone thought about it. Scared. But also, stronger, I think. Like I'm doing something instead of just falling apart. That's my girl, Nadine said, and Simone could hear the pride in her voice. Come home. I made pot roast. Mama, it's 3 in the afternoon. And? You think pot roast has a time limit? Get home. We're going to eat and then we're going to talk about what comes next. Simone drove back to her mother's house through afternoon traffic, and for the first time since reading Derek's text, she didn't cry. Instead, she thought about the future Camille had described, a future where she got what she was owed, where Derek had to face the consequences of his choices, where she walked away with her dignity intact. When she pulled into Nadine's driveway, her mother was on the porch waiting for her. And standing next to Nadine was Rhonda Patterson, Simone's best friend from work, holding a bottle of wine and wearing an expression that said she'd heard everything and was ready to fight. Surprise, Rhonda said. Your mama called me. Hope that's okay. Simone felt tears prick her eyes again, but these were different. These were grateful tears. Because Derek had taken a lot from her, but he hadn't taken this: her people, her village, the women who showed up without being asked. It's perfect, Simone said, and meant it. Rhonda Patterson had known Simone for 6 years, since the day Simone started working at Mercy General Hospital, and Rhonda had been assigned to train her. They'd bonded over terrible cafeteria coffee and a shared love of crime podcasts, and somewhere along the way, they'd become the kind of friends who didn't need explanations. Now Rhonda sat at Nadine's kitchen table, pouring wine into 3 glasses while Nadine brought out the pot roast. Okay, Rhonda said, sliding a glass toward Simone. I already know the basics because your mama filled me in. But I need details. What exactly did that fool say in the text? Simone repeated the message for what felt like the 100th time. Don't call or come over. We're done. That's it? Just 6 words. Rhonda's voice rose. 6 words after 8 years? That's all I got. Rhonda took a long drink of wine. I never liked him. Rhonda, Nadine warned. What? I'm being honest. He always seemed like he was performing being a husband instead of actually being one. You know what I mean? Like he'd read about what husbands are supposed to do and was just checking boxes. Simone thought about that. Derek had been attentive in obvious ways: flowers on anniversaries, public declarations on social media, expensive gifts on birthdays. But when it came to the everyday stuff, the small moments that actually built a life together, he'd been distant. How many nights had she eaten dinner alone while he worked late? How many times had she suggested they go to therapy and he'd said they were fine? You might be right, Simone admitted. Of course I'm right. I'm always right. Rhonda turned to Nadine. Mrs. Brooks, this pot roast is incredible. Will you adopt me? Nadine laughed. You're already like a daughter to me. Both of you are. They ate and talked, and slowly Simone felt herself relaxing. This was what she'd needed: not pity or careful tiptoeing around her pain, but Rhonda's blunt honesty and her mother's steady presence. They didn't treat her like she was broken. They treated her like she was going to survive this, and that made it feel possible. So what's the plan? Rhonda asked, pouring herself more wine. Are you staying here? For now, Simone said. I need to figure out what to do about the house. Camille said we'd address it in the temporary orders. What about work? Are you taking time off? I can't afford to. I need the money now more than ever. Girl, you're the administrator. You could take a few days if you needed to. I don't want to, Simone said, and realized she meant it. I don't want to sit here and think about Derek all day. I need to stay busy. Okay, but promise me you'll tell me if you need anything. And I mean anything: someone to sit with you during lunch, someone to cover a meeting if you need to cry in your car, someone to slash Derek's tires. Rhonda. I'm kidding. Mostly. Rhonda grinned. But seriously, Simone. You don't have to do this alone. I've got your back. We all do, Nadine added. This is just the beginning. You're going to have good days and bad days. The important thing is to keep moving forward. Later that night, after Rhonda had gone home and Nadine had gone to bed, Simone sat in the backyard with her phone. She'd been avoiding social media since the text, afraid of what she might see, but curiosity finally got the better of her. Derek's Instagram was still public. His last post was from a week ago, a photo of his lunch at some upscale restaurant downtown. The caption said, "Sometimes you need to invest in yourself." Simone stared at it, trying to read meaning into the words. Had that been a message? A hint that he was planning to leave? She scrolled further back. There was a photo of them from their anniversary 2 months ago. Derek had his arm around her, both of them smiling. The caption said, 8 years with my beautiful wife. Here's to forever. Forever had lasted 2 months after that post. Simone's finger hovered over the unfollow button, but she couldn't bring herself to press it. Not yet. Some part of her still wanted to understand, still hoped for an explanation that would make this make sense. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Camille. I know I said you wouldn't hear from me until tomorrow, but I wanted you to know I've already started pulling together the divorce petition. I'm including a request for exclusive use of the marital home. If Derek's not living there, you shouldn't have to leave. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Try to get some rest tonight. Simone typed back, thank you. For everything. That's what I'm here for. You're going to get through this. Simone put her phone away and looked up at the stars. The night was clear, and she could see more of them here at her mother's house than she ever could in her neighborhood closer to the city. When she was a little girl, her father used to bring her out here and teach her the constellations. He died when she was 12, and for years afterward, she'd come out here to feel close to him. I could use your advice right now, Daddy, she whispered to the sky. The stars didn't answer, but the memory of her father's voice came to her anyway. Baby girl, you're stronger than you know. You've got your mama's backbone and my heart. That's a powerful combination. Maybe it was. Maybe she was strong enough to get through this. But sitting there under the stars, still wearing the wedding ring she hadn't been able to take off yet, Simone allowed herself to feel the full weight of her grief. She cried for the marriage she'd believed in, for the future that would never happen, for the version of herself who'd woken up yesterday morning still believing she was loved. Tomorrow she would be strong. Tonight she would mourn. 3 days later, Simone was at her mother's house sorting through financial documents when headlights swept across the living room. She glanced out the window and froze. Derek's car was pulling into the driveway. Mama? Simone called out, her heart hammering. Nadine appeared from the kitchen, took one look at Simone's face and strode to the window. That fool. I knew he'd try something. Derek was getting out of his car, and even from inside the house, Simone could see the tension in his shoulders. He looked tired, his usual careful grooming replaced with stubble and wrinkled clothes. Good, she thought with a spike of satisfaction. Let him hurt too. Don't answer the door, Nadine said. He doesn't get to show up here demanding anything. But Derek didn't knock. Instead, he stood on the driveway staring at the house, his hands shoved in his pockets. Then he pulled out his phone. Simone's phone rang. She looked at the screen. He's calling from a different number. Don't answer it. Simone didn't. The call went to voicemail. Seconds later, a text came through. Simone, please. I need to talk to you. I can see your car. I know you're in there. The audacity, Nadine muttered. After what he did, he thinks he can just show up. Another text. I'm not leaving until you talk to me. I'll wait all night if I have to. Simone's hand shook. Part of her wanted answers so badly she could taste it. But Camille's words echoed in her head. Don't contact him unless it's through me. She texted Camille, Derek's outside my mother's house. Says he needs to talk. What do I do? The response came within seconds. Do not talk to him. Take photos of him on the property. Document everything. If he doesn't leave in 10 minutes, call the police. I'll file for a protective order tomorrow. Simone screenshot the text Derek had sent and took photos of his car in the driveway. Her hands were steadier now. Having a plan, having action steps, made her feel less helpless. Another text from Derek. I know I hurt you. I know I handled this wrong. Just give me 5 minutes to explain. Nadine looked at Simone. What do you want to do, baby? Simone thought about it. She thought about Camille's advice. She thought about the 8 years she'd given him and the 6 words he'd given her back. She thought about the money he'd stolen and the blocked phone number and the way he'd discarded her like she was nothing. She opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. Nadine was right behind her. Derek straightened up when he saw her. Simone, thank God. I've been trying to reach. You have 2 minutes, Simone cut him off. Say what you came to say. He moved toward the porch, but Nadine stepped forward. You can say it from right there. Derek stopped, looking between them. Can we talk privately? No. Simone, please. You have 90 seconds now. He ran his hand through his hair, that same gesture he'd always done when he was frustrated. I made a mistake. I panicked. I've been feeling overwhelmed and I didn't know how to talk to you about it, so I ran. You ran to another woman's bed and our bank account, Simone said flatly. It wasn't like that. The bank statements say otherwise. The hotel charges say otherwise. The jewelry you bought that I never saw says otherwise. Derek's face flushed. I was going to explain all of that. I just needed time to figure things out. You had 8 years to figure things out. You had every night I came home and asked how your day was. You had every Sunday morning when I asked if we could go to therapy. You had 1,000 chances to talk to me. Simone's voice stayed level, cold. You chose a text message instead. I know and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking straight. You were thinking clearly enough to empty our accounts. You were thinking clearly enough to block my number. You were thinking clearly enough to spend months lying to my face. Simone crossed her arms. Your 2 minutes are up. Leave. Simone, wait. Leave, Nadine said, her voice hard as stone. Or I call the police. Your choice. Derek looked at Simone, something desperate in his eyes. I still love you. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can go to therapy, we can. You don't love me, Simone said, and the words felt true as she spoke them. You love the idea of me. You love having someone at home while you do whatever you want. You love the appearance of being married. But you don't love me. If you did, you couldn't have done what you did. That's not fair. Fair? Simone laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? You're going to find out about fair when my lawyer gets done with you. Every penny you stole, every lie you told, it's all going to come out in court. And then we'll see who thinks what's fair. Derek's expression shifted then, the desperation replaced with something harder. I came here to apologize and try to work things out. Don't threaten me. That wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Now get off my mother's property before I call the police and file for a restraining order. They stared at each other across the driveway, 8 years of marriage reduced to two strangers locked in a battle neither of them wanted but only one of them had started. Finally, Derek got back in his car. But before he drove away, he rolled down his window. You're going to regret this, Simone. When you're alone and you realize what you threw away. The only thing I'm throwing away is a man who wasn't worth keeping. Simone turned her back on him and walked into the house. Nadine followed, closing and locking the door behind them. Inside, Simone's legs gave out. She sank onto the couch, her whole body shaking with adrenaline. Did that really just happen? It did. And you handled it perfectly. Nadine sat beside her and pulled her close. I'm so proud of you, baby. You didn't let him manipulate you or make you feel guilty. You stood your ground. I wanted to hear his explanation, Simone admitted. Part of me still wants to understand why. Some questions don't have good answers. And even if he tried to explain, would it change anything? Simone thought about that. No. No explanation would make the text message okay. No reason would justify the stolen money or the months of lies. Derek's why didn't matter. What mattered was her what next. She texted Camille, he left. I have photos and screenshots of everything. I didn't say anything except to tell him to leave. Perfect. I'm filing for a protective order first thing in the morning. He doesn't get to show up and harass you. See you tomorrow at 9 a.m. to go over everything. Simone looked at her mother. This is really happening. We're really getting divorced. Yes, you are. And on the other side of this, you're going to be free. Truly free. Free to build a life with someone who actually deserves you. Or free to build a life just for yourself. Either way, free. Freedom. The word felt strange and terrifying and exhilarating all at once. For 8 years, she'd been half of Derek and Simone. Now she was going to have to figure out who Simone was on her own. But sitting there in her mother's living room, still shaking but no longer crying, Simone realized something important. She was already starting to find out. A week later, Simone was back at work trying to focus on budget reports when Rhonda appeared in her office doorway looking like she'd seen a ghost. You need to come with me right now, Rhonda said. I'm in the middle of... Right now, Simone. Something in Rhonda's voice made Simone stand up. She followed her friend out of the hospital and across the street to the coffee shop where they usually grabbed their afternoon caffeine fix. Rhonda stopped outside and turned to face her. Okay, before we go in, I need you to stay calm. I need you to remember that you're strong and you're going to be fine. Rhonda, you're scaring me. What's going on? She's in there. Who? The woman Derek was cheating with. I recognize her from a photo she posted that he liked. I've been stalking his social media because I'm a good friend like that. She's sitting in the back corner and Simone, she looks like she wants to talk to you. Simone's heart started pounding. How do you know she wants to talk to me? Because she's been sitting there for an hour and when I walked past she asked me if I worked with you. She knew your name. She knows where you work. Rhonda grabbed Simone's hands. You don't have to talk to her. We can turn around right now and go back. But I thought you should know she's there. Simone took a deep breath. Part of her wanted to run. But another part, the part that had stood up to Derek on her mother's porch, wanted answers. Wanted to look this woman in the face and see who had been worth destroying a marriage for. I'm going in, Simone said. I'm coming with you. They walked into the coffee shop together, and Simone spotted her immediately. She was sitting in the back corner like Rhonda said, A young woman mid-20s maybe with her hair in neat braids and her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was keeping her grounded. When she saw Simone, she stood up, her expression nervous and guilty and determined all at once. "Simone?" she asked. "That's me. I'm Tasha. Tasha Miller. I'm the one who was seeing Derek." Rhonda made a noise like she wanted to say something, but Simone held up her hand. "Why are you here, Tasha?" "Because he lied to me too. And I thought you should know the truth." Simone and Rhonda sat down across from her. Up close, Tasha looked even younger, and there were dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't been sleeping well. "Talk," Simone said. Tasha took a shaky breath. "I met Derek 6 months ago at a work conference. He told me he was separated, that his divorce was almost final. He said you two had grown apart and were just waiting for the paperwork to go through. He showed me pictures of his apartment. I thought he lived alone." She laughed bitterly. "I'm so stupid." "You're not the stupid one," Rhonda muttered. "I believed him completely. We started seeing each other and he was so charming and so attentive. He'd text me good morning every day, buy me gifts, take me to nice restaurants. He made me feel special." Tasha's eyes filled with tears. "Then last week his phone rang while we were together. He said it was a work call, but I heard a woman's voice when he answered, a woman who sounded angry. After he hung up, he looked panicked. That's when I started putting things together." "What did you do?" Simone asked. "I looked him up online. Found your wedding photos. Found your anniversary posts. Found out that you two were very much married and there was no separation, no divorce pending. Nothing he told me was true." Tasha wiped her eyes. "I confronted him and he admitted he'd lied. Said he was planning to leave you but hadn't gotten around to it yet. Like you were an errand he kept forgetting to run." Simone felt sick. All those nights Derek said he was working late, all those weekend conferences he had to attend, he'd been building a whole separate life with this girl who'd been as deceived as she was. "I'm sorry," Tasha said. "I know that doesn't fix anything or make it better. But I am so sorry. If I had known he was still married, if I had known you didn't know." "It's not your fault," Simone heard herself say. "He lied to both of us. I broke it off with him immediately. Told him I never wanted to see him again. And Tasha's voice broke. He got angry. Said I was overreacting, that marriages end all the time, that I was being naive. Like I was the problem for having standards." "What an absolute piece of garbage," Rhonda said. "There's something else," Tasha said. "Something I think you need to know." Simone braced herself. "What?" "The jewelry he bought. The expensive stuff on your credit cards. It wasn't all for me. There's another woman. Someone he met online. I found messages on his phone before I ended things. He was seeing both of us at the same time." The coffee shop seemed to tilt. Simone grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. "Are you okay?" Rhonda asked, her hand on Simone's back. "There were two," Simone managed to say. "At least two. Maybe more. I don't know." Tasha pulled a USB drive from her purse. "I screenshotted everything I found before I deleted his number. His messages, his dating app profiles, everything. I thought you might need it for your divorce. I know I was part of the problem even if I didn't know it, but I want to help make it right." Simone took the USB drive with numb fingers. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because he destroyed your life and he destroyed mine too. Because women need to look out for each other instead of tearing each other down. Because it's the right thing to do." Tasha stood up. "I hope you take him for everything he's worth. And I hope you find someone who actually deserves you." She walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Simone and Rhonda sitting in stunned silence. "Did that really just happen?" Rhonda finally asked. "I think so." Simone looked at the USB drive in her hand. "There were two women. Maybe more." "Simone, this is good. I know it doesn't feel good, but this is ammunition. This is evidence. This is exactly what Camille needs to bury him in court." Simone nodded slowly. Rhonda was right. But all she could think about was how thoroughly Derek had betrayed her. It wasn't just one affair, one mistake, one moment of weakness. It was a pattern. A lifestyle. A complete double life he'd been living while coming home to her every night and kissing her like she was the only one. "I need to call Camille," Simone said. "Right now. Right now." They went back to Simone's office and she called Camille from her desk. She explained what had happened, about Tasha and the USB drive and the evidence of multiple affairs. "Simone, this is exactly what we needed," Camille said. "Can you bring me that drive today?" "I'll come right after work." "Perfect. And Simone? I know this hurts. I know it feels like it keeps getting worse. But I promise you, every piece of evidence we have makes your case stronger." "He's done." Completely done. After she hung up, Simone sat at her desk holding the USB drive. Part of her wanted to plug it in and see everything, read every message, torture herself with the details. But another part, the stronger part, knew that she didn't need to see it. She already knew enough. Derek hadn't just betrayed her. He'd built an entire secret life. And now that life was going to cost him everything. "You okay?" Rhonda asked gently. "No. But I will be." Simone put the USB drive in her purse. "I have to be." 2 weeks later, Simone sat in a therapist's office at her mother's insistence. Dr. Beverly Chin, the same therapist who'd helped Nadine through grief after Simone's father died, had gentle eyes and a calm presence that immediately put Simone at ease. "Your mother is worried about you," Dr. Chin said. "She says you're handling everything perfectly on the outside, but she's not sure what's happening on the inside." "I'm fine," Simone said automatically. "Are you?" The question hung in the air. Simone looked at her hands. She'd finally taken off her wedding ring last week, and the tan line was already starting to fade. Everything was fading. The marriage felt like it had happened to someone else, some naive woman who didn't know what Simone knew now. "I don't know," Simone admitted. "Sometimes I'm angry. Like furious. I want to scream and break things and make him hurt the way he hurt me. Other times I just feel empty. Like someone scooped out my insides and left a shell. Those are both normal reactions to betrayal and loss. I don't feel like I've lost anything. That's the weird part. I keep waiting to miss him, to wish he'd come back, but I don't. I just feel relieved that I know the truth now." Relief is normal too. You're grieving the relationship you thought you had, not the reality of what it was. Simone thought about that. "He wasn't who I thought he was. And I hate that I didn't see it." "Simone, I want you to hear this. You didn't miss signs. You trusted your husband the way you're supposed to trust someone you're married to. That's not naivety. That's how healthy relationships work. He's the one who broke the trust, not you for having it. Everyone keeps saying that. But I still feel stupid. You're allowed to feel however you feel. There's no right way to process this." Dr. Chin leaned forward. "Tell me about your support system. Who are you leaning on?" "My mother. My friend Rhonda from work. My lawyer." Simone paused. "My cousin Isaiah has been helping me set up some financial stuff too." "That's good. You're not isolating. What about your daily routine? Are you eating? Sleeping?" "Eating, yes. Mama won't let me skip meals. Sleeping is harder. I keep replaying everything, trying to figure out when it started to go wrong. That's going to keep you stuck in the past. What I'd like to work on with you is accepting that you may never know exactly when or why things changed. Some questions don't have satisfying answers." They talked for an hour about coping strategies, about processing grief, about building a new identity that wasn't tied to being someone's wife. Dr. Chin gave her homework. Write down 3 things she was looking forward to each day, no matter how small. "I don't know if I'm looking forward to anything," Simone said. "Then we'll start there. Find small things. A good cup of coffee. A sunny day. A new episode of a show you like. Build from there." When Simone left the office, she felt wrung out but lighter somehow. Like she'd been carrying around thoughts she didn't know how to organize, and Dr. Chen had helped her sort them into boxes she could manage. She went back to her mother's house and found Isaiah in the kitchen with Nadine, both of them hovering over a laptop. "What's going on?" Simone asked. Isaiah looked up. Her cousin was 25, worked in tech, and had his mother's same analytical mind. "Auntie Nadine told me you might be interested in starting something of your own. So I've been researching business structures." "Starting what?" "A consulting business," Nadine said. "You've been managing hospital administration for years. You know that world inside and out. Isaiah thinks you could consult for smaller medical practices that need help with their operations." Simone hadn't thought about that. She'd been so focused on surviving the divorce that she hadn't thought about what came after. "I don't know the first thing about running a business," Simone said. "That's what I'm here for," Isaiah said. "I can help you set up an LLC, build a website, handle the tech side. You just have to do what you already do at work, help people organize their chaos." "Why would anyone hire me?" "Because you're good at what you do. And because independent practices are desperate for help from someone who understands healthcare but doesn't cost as much as a full-time administrator." Isaiah pulled up a spreadsheet. "I ran the numbers. If you got just 3 clients paying $3,000 a month each, that's $9,000 a month more than you're making at the hospital. And you'd be your own boss." Simone sat down, looking at the numbers. It seemed impossible. But then again, 2 months ago, the idea of getting divorced had seemed impossible too. "I need to focus on the divorce first," Simone said. "Of course. But think about it. When you're ready to start building your new life, this could be part of it. That night, Simone couldn't sleep again. But instead of replaying the past, she found herself thinking about the future. About what it would be like to work for herself, to build something that was entirely hers, to have control over her own schedule and her own success. She pulled out her phone and started making notes. Potential services she could offer, practices she knew that might need help, skills she had that were marketable. By the time she finally fell asleep at 2 a.m., she had 3 pages of ideas. The next morning she texted Isaiah, "Let's talk more about the business idea. I think I'm interested." His response came immediately, "Let's do it. You're going to be amazing." Simone read the text 3 times, and for the first time since reading Derek's breakup message, she felt something that wasn't anger or grief or relief. She felt hopeful. The temporary orders hearing was set for a Thursday morning in October. Simone wore a navy blue suit her mother had helped her pick out, her hair pulled back in a sleek bun, her face carefully made up to hide the fact that she'd barely slept. Camille met her outside the courtroom. "Ready?" "No. But let's do it anyway. That's the spirit. Remember, don't react to anything he says. Don't make eye contact unless you have to. Let me do the talking." They walked into the courtroom, and Simone saw Derek for the first time since that night at her mother's house. He was sitting with his own lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked bored. Derek was wearing his best charcoal suit, the one he'd worn to their wedding reception. Simone felt a flash of anger at that choice. How dare he wear that suit here, in the place where they were tearing apart what that suit had once celebrated? The judge entered, a black woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. Judge Patricia Robinson. Camille had told Simone this was good luck. Judge Robinson was known for not tolerating financial games in divorce proceedings. "We're here for temporary orders in Carter versus Carter," the judge said. "Counselors, please present your positions." Camille stood. "Your Honor, Mrs. Carter is requesting exclusive use of the marital home, an equal division of the remaining marital funds, and temporary support while the divorce is pending." Mr. Carter abandoned the marriage without warning via text message, then proceeded to dissipate marital assets by withdrawing over $8,000 from joint accounts and running up credit card debt for personal expenses related to extramarital affairs. Derek's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client disputes the characterization of." "Does your client dispute sending the text message?" Judge Robinson interrupted. "Well, no, but does your client dispute the withdrawals and charges?" "The withdrawals were from joint accounts that he had every right to access. After telling his wife not to contact him? That sounds like dissipation of assets to me." Judge Robinson looked at Derek. "Mr. Carter, did you have an affair?" Derek shifted in his seat. "Your Honor, I don't see how that's relevant to." "It's relevant because if you spent marital money on another woman, that affects how I'm going to divide things. Did you or did you not have an extramarital affair?" "Yes," Derek said quietly. "How many?" What? "How many affairs did you have during your marriage to Mrs. Carter?" Derek's lawyer tried to intervene. "Your Honor, I don't think my client should be required to." "He doesn't have to answer. But if he doesn't, I'm going to assume the worst and rule accordingly." Judge Robinson looked at Derek expectantly. "2, Derek said. Then after a pause, "Maybe 3. I'm not sure if the online thing counts as an affair." Simone felt Camille's hand on her arm, a reminder not to react. But inside she was screaming. 3. He just admitted to 3 affairs in front of a judge. Judge Robinson's expression didn't change, but Simone saw something flash in her eyes. "Mr. Carter, did you spend marital funds on these affairs?" "Some, yes." "How much?" "I don't know exactly." "Guess." Derek looked at his lawyer, who nodded reluctantly. "Maybe 15,000 over the past 6 months." The courtroom was silent. Simone did the math in her head. $15,000 of their money, spent on women who weren't her. Money they could have saved for the house they wanted, the children they'd talked about having someday. "Your Honor," Camille said, "we have evidence of every transaction, along with testimony from one of the affair partners confirming Mr. Carter's deception. We're requesting that Mrs. Carter be awarded 100% of the remaining marital funds as compensation for the dissipated assets, in addition to the other relief requested." "Motion granted," Judge Robinson said without hesitation. "Mr. Carter, you will transfer all remaining funds from joint accounts to Mrs. Carter within 5 business days. You will also make payments of $1,500 per month to Mrs. Carter as temporary support until this divorce is final. Mrs. Carter has exclusive use of the marital home. You are not to enter the property without her written permission. Are we clear?" Your Honor, that's excessive, Derek's lawyer started. What's excessive is spending $15,000 of marital money on affairs and then having the audacity to ask for half of what's left. My ruling stands. If Mr. Carter wants to contest this, he can do so at the final hearing. But I warn you both, if the evidence supports what Mrs. Carter is alleging, Mr. Carter is going to walk away from this marriage with a lot less than half. The judge banged her gavel and it was over. Outside the courtroom, Simone finally let herself breathe. Did that really just happen? It did. And it was beautiful. Camille grinned. Judge Robinson just gave us everything we asked for. The final divorce will take longer, but you've got financial security while we wait. And Derek just admitted to multiple affairs on the record that's going to tank any chance he has of getting a fair division of assets. He looked so shocked. Because he thought he could walk away clean. Thought he could take whatever he wanted and you'd be too hurt or too scared to fight back. He was wrong. Simone looked back at the courthouse. Through the window she could see Derek arguing with his lawyer in the lobby. He looked angry, cornered, desperate. For a moment she felt something almost like pity. Then she remembered the text message, the stolen money, the 3 affairs, and the pity evaporated. What happens now? Simone asked. Now he transfers the money, you move back into your house, and we start preparing for the final hearing. We'll go after his 401k, his car, everything. And based on what happened in there today, I think we're going to win big. Simone nodded. She was still processing, still trying to believe that she'd just won something. That the judge had listened to her, believed her, and ruled in her favor. Her phone buzzed. It was Nadine. How did it go? Simone typed back, we won. I'm coming home. Can you help me pack? I'm moving back into my house. The response was immediate, I'll start making calls. You're going to have so much help you won't know what to do with it. I'm proud of you, baby. Rhonda's text came next, heard from your mama. Simone, you did it. Drinks this weekend to celebrate? Then Isaiah. Auntie Nadine told me. Congrats. Ready to talk about that business plan now? Simone stood on the courthouse steps reading messages of support and love, and she realized something important. Derek had taken a lot from her. But he hadn't taken her people. He hadn't taken her strength. He hadn't taken her future. All of that was still hers. Ready to go? Camille asked. Ready, Simone said. And for the first time in 2 months she meant it. Moving back into the house should have felt triumphant, but instead it felt strange. Simone walked through rooms that still held memories of Derek, his chair in the living room, the coffee maker he'd insisted they buy, the paint color he'd picked for the bedroom. Everything looked the same but felt different, like a museum of someone else's life. Nadine, Rhonda, and Isaiah arrived within an hour of each other, all carrying boxes and cleaning supplies and enough food to feed an army. First things first, Nadine announced. We're changing this house. Anything that reminds you of him gone. We're making this your space. Mama, I can't afford to redecorate the whole house. Who said anything about spending money? We're getting creative. Nadine opened her bag and pulled out paint samples. Isaiah's bringing his truck tomorrow. We're hauling Derek's chair to Goodwill and rearranging everything. Rhonda was already in the kitchen. This coffee maker is ridiculous. Who needs 17 settings? I'm ordering you a simple one that actually works. And I'm setting up your home office, Isaiah called from the spare bedroom. If you're going to start this consulting business, you need a professional workspace. Simone watched her people take over her house, and for the first time since moving back in, she felt like she could breathe. They weren't asking her permission or waiting for her to direct them. They were just doing what needed to be done the way family does. By the end of the weekend, the house looked completely different. They'd painted the bedroom a soft sage green that Simone had always loved. Derek's leather chair was gone, replaced with a cozy reading nook Nadine had created with things from her own house. The kitchen felt lighter with new curtains and the old coffee maker donated. The spare bedroom was now a proper office with a desk, bookshelves, and everything Isaiah said she'd need for her business. It doesn't even feel like the same place, Simone said, looking around. That's the point, Rhonda said. This is your house now. Your sanctuary. No ghosts allowed. They ordered pizza and ate sitting on the floor of the living room, just the 4 of them, laughing and talking about everything except Derek. Nadine told stories about church gossip. Rhonda complained about her dating life. Isaiah showed them a new app he was developing. It was normal and easy and exactly what Simone needed. I've been thinking about Pastor Elaine's offer, Nadine said during a lull in conversation. What offer? Simone asked. She wants to do a blessing ceremony at the church for people starting new ventures. She knows about your business idea and thinks it would be good for the community to support you. Mama, I haven't even officially started yet. So, you start officially now. Isaiah's got the LLC paperwork ready. You've got 3 potential clients already interested. You've got this office set up. What are you waiting for? Simone looked around at her mother, her friend, her cousin, all of them looking at her with such confidence, such certainty that she could do this. I'm scared, she admitted. What if I fail? Then you fail, Isaiah said simply, and you try something else. But Simone, you're not going to fail. You're too good at what you do. And even if you do fail, which you won't, you'll have tried. You'll have bet on yourself. Rhonda raised her glass of wine. To betting on yourself. They all clinked glasses, even Isaiah with his soda, and Simone felt something shift inside her chest. Maybe she could do this. Maybe this divorce, as painful as it was, had freed her to take risks she wouldn't have taken otherwise. That week, Simone filed the LLC paperwork for Carter Consulting Services. Isaiah built her a website. Nadine spread the word at church and through her network of friends. Rhonda told everyone at the hospital and connected Simone with 3 small medical practices that needed help. By the end of the month, Simone had her first official client, a family medicine practice that was drowning in paperwork and billing issues. They wanted her to come in 3 days a week to help them restructure their operations. The contract was for 6 months with the possibility of extension. $9,000 over 6 months, Simone told Nadine over dinner. That's real money. That's just the beginning, Nadine said. You watch. By this time next year, you'll have more clients than you can handle. The blessing ceremony at church was small but meaningful. Pastor Elaine Foster, a woman in her mid-50s with kind eyes and a commanding presence, called Simone to the front of the sanctuary. Simone Carter is starting a new chapter in her life, Pastor Elaine said to the gathered congregation. She's building something from the ground up, betting on her own talents and trusting in God's provision. We're here to lift her up in prayer and remind her that she doesn't walk this path alone. The church members laid hands on Simone, Nadine, Rhonda, Isaiah, and dozens of others who'd watched her grow up in this community. They prayed for her success, her peace, her healing. They prayed that the business would flourish and that Simone would find joy in this new beginning. Grace Thompson, a church elder in her 70s, spoke up from the back. Baby girl, I've known you since you were in diapers. I watched you grow into a strong, faithful woman. What that man did to you was wrong, but it doesn't define you. This right here, this courage to start over, that defines you. Simone cried through the whole ceremony, but these were different tears. Not grief tears or anger tears, but something clean and healing. Like she was washing away the past and making room for whatever came next. After the ceremony, people gathered around her with advice and encouragement. Grace pulled her aside. My granddaughter runs a small dental practice. She needs help with her administrative systems. Can I give her your number? Yes, please. You're going to do great things, Grace said, squeezing her hand. I'm proud to know you. That night, Simone sat in her newly decorated bedroom and opened her journal, something Dr. Chen had suggested she start keeping. She wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. My mother, who catches me every time I fall. My friends, who showed me I'm not alone. Myself, for having the courage to start over. She added a 4th thing, surprising herself. Derek's text message, because it freed me to build a life that's actually mine. Simone closed the journal and turned off the light. Tomorrow she would start her first day as a consultant. Tomorrow she would wake up in her own house, in her own bed, living her own life. She couldn't wait. The final divorce hearing took place on a Thursday morning in April, 6 months after Derek had sent that text message. Simone walked into the courtroom wearing a cream-colored suit she'd bought with money from her consulting business, a business that now had 6 regular clients and more requests coming in every week. Judge Robinson presided again. Derek's lawyer had tried to argue for a more equal distribution of assets, but the evidence was overwhelming. The bank statements, the testimony from Tasha, the messages and photos Isaiah had helped Camille organize into a devastating presentation. The judge's ruling was swift. Simone got the house, half of Derek's retirement account, half the value of his car, and full repayment of the $15,000 he'd spent on affairs. Derek got to keep his clothes and his guilt. Mr. Carter, Judge Robinson said, I've been doing this for 23 years and I rarely see cases this clear-cut. You betrayed your wife, stole from your marriage, and thought you could walk away without consequences. Consider yourself lucky that all you're losing is money and property. Mrs. Carter is losing 8 years of her life that she can't get back. My only regret is that I can't order you to pay for that. The gavel came down. Just like that, Simone wasn't married anymore. Outside the courthouse, Camille hugged her. You did it? You're officially free. I don't know what I feel. You'll figure it out. But Simone? You should be proud of yourself. You could have rolled over and let him take whatever he wanted. Instead, you fought for what you deserved. Not every woman has that strength. Simone went back to her office, the spare bedroom that didn't feel spare anymore, but professional and purposeful. She had client meetings scheduled for the afternoon, invoices to send, a business to run. She had a life that was entirely her own, built from scratch in the ruins of what Derek had destroyed. Her phone rang. Nadine. How did it go? It's done. I'm divorced. How do you feel? Like I can breathe all the way down to my toes. Nadine laughed. That's my girl. Rhonda and I are bringing dinner. We're celebrating. Mama, you don't have to. Hush. Let us celebrate you. That evening, Simone's house filled with the people who'd carried her through the darkest months of her life. Nadine brought her famous fried chicken. Rhonda brought wine and flowers. Isaiah brought his girlfriend and a bottle of champagne. Pastor Elaine and Grace stopped by with a card signed by the whole church congregation. To Simone, Rhonda said, raising her glass. Who turned the worst thing that ever happened to her into the best thing that ever happened to her. I'm not sure I'd go that far, Simone said. Girl, 6 months ago you were crying on your mama's couch. Now look at you, successful business owner, independent woman living her best life. If that's not a glow up, I don't know what is. They ate and talked and laughed, and Simone realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd thought about Derek. Not with anger or grief or even curiosity. He'd become a character in someone else's story, someone she used to know but didn't anymore. After everyone left, Simone sat on her porch with a cup of tea, looking at the garden she'd planted last month. Tomatoes and peppers and herbs, things she'd wanted to grow for years but Derek had said were too much work. Now they were thriving, green and alive in hers. Her phone buzzed with an email from a new potential client, a pediatric practice that had heard about her work and wanted to discuss restructuring their billing department. She saved it to read tomorrow. Tonight was for sitting still and being grateful. The next morning, Simone woke up early and went for a run, something she'd started doing after Dr. Chen suggested exercise for stress relief. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. She ran past the park where she and Derek used to walk, past the coffee shop where Tasha had given her the evidence that changed everything, past her mother's house with the porch light still on. She ran and ran until her legs burned and her lungs ached and she felt strong and alive and completely, wonderfully free. When she got home, she showered and dressed for her day. She had 3 client meetings scheduled, a consultation call with a new prospect, and dinner plans with Rhonda. Her calendar was full of things she'd chosen, work she loved, people who appreciated her. Before she left for her first meeting, Simone did something she'd been putting off for months. She opened her phone and pulled up Derek's number, still saved in her contacts, still attached to years of memories. She hovered her finger over the delete button for a long moment. Then she pressed it. The number disappeared. No dramatic music, no sense of closure. Just empty space where something used to be. Simone smiled and put her phone away. She grabbed her work bag, locked her door, and walked to her car. The morning was beautiful, her business was thriving, and somewhere in the distance, her future was waiting. She'd sent Derek a text 6 months ago that said, "Got it." 2 words that had terrified her at the time because they meant agreeing to an ending she hadn't seen coming. But now, driving to her meeting with the sun on her face and possibilities spreading out before her like an open road, Simone realized something. Those 2 words hadn't been an ending at all. They'd been the beginning of everything.